So look at that. You've got your supplementary video. That's not really video, it's just me talking. And I don't have anything to open for you guys at the moment. I just have this to put, like sandwich between videos. And what I wanted to do, you know, just talk about something. Today, the Capcom Next happened. Well, yesterday the Capcom Next happened. Um, at the time of recording, I was a little late to the party. And I basically just skipped past all of it because I don't care about Monster Hunter. I don't care about Dead Rising. I got to the good stuff. I got to the Resident Evil, and I know I like video games other than Halo, even though I talk about Halo a lot. We're kind of done with Halo. We buried that subject. It's that horse has been kicked so much it's just a pile of mush. But like, let's do that with Resident Evil now. So the Capcom Next just said Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and Resident Evil 4 remake are coming to mobile, like iOS mobile and mobile. Like, I'll be able to play the last three. Well, what is it? The last three no, the last three was 7, 8, and 4 remake. Okay, the last three Resident Evils on my Mac. Because I record from a Mac like a savage, like an animal. And not only that, if I get bored of it on my Mac, I can play it on my phone. And I thought, okay, that's ridiculous. And then it ended with the director of Seven. Oh God, what's his name? Let's just Google that real quick. Um, Koshi Nakanishi was like, yeah, Resident Evil 7 was the scariest game in the world, and he was right. um, and then there's like a big arrow pointing over my head that says like has only played Silent Hill 1 and about 2 hours of 2. And Resident Evil 7 was pretty serious. We'll get into how much I like Resident Evil 7, but uh we we have that. It's pretty great. And he was like, "Oh yeah, uh I figured out how to make Resident Evil scary again with the next game." And there was nothing about the next game. No screenshots, no title, nothing. Just Resident Evil 9, I guess. And he said the quote was something along the lines of, "I was trying to find something as scary as 7, and I think I found something that is." Or he said like that's substantial, right? Um, so I'll just talk about, like, before I go in depth of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 4 remake, which I haven't finished the 4 remake, and I'll get to why soon. Um, Resident Evil 7 is one of my favorite video games of all time. It's what got me into horror gaming. I was like 15 or 16 when it came out. It came out in January, I think, so I must have been 15. And I love it so much. That the all the like the first two-thirds of Resident Evil 7 are basically perfect. But I'm not getting into that just yet. Resident Evil 7 is almost a masterpiece. If I had to give it a rating, it's like a 9 out of 10. Um, there are some issues with it, which I'll get into. I don't know how long this video will be. This is just me talking for like an hour. Resident Evil 8 is not good. I do not like it very much at all. I played it multiple times. I was like, oh great, we're in Resident Evil 4 again, but now they're werewolves. Yeah, spoiler alert for the Resident Evil games. I don't like how it kind of uproots, pun intended, the story of the Spencer, not the me Spencer, but the is his name Alfred Spencer from the original Resident Evil? I don't know. He's got some old man name. The Spencer Mansion, that stuff. Umbrella, how it uproots Umbrella by making once again, spoilers. I'm going to put a big thing at the start of this video that just says I'm going to spoil almost every single Resident Evil game I've played. Um, but how Miranda is like pre-Umbrella and somehow figured out the what's the is it the G virus in, or is it just the mold? Whatever the mold is, the mycelium, that shit in Resident Evil 8 that I don't care about because it's boring. And how she perfected it and she brought it to Spencer, and that's how like all that T virus stuff started. I think that's really bad. I think that's really stupid that this character who's only showed up once, and Spencer's like not present in any of the games. He's long dead, and that's like what kind of makes him interesting is how he's a mysterious figure. But you literally fight and kill Mother Miranda, which is boring as shit. And her boss fight sucks. Resident Evil 8 just sucks. The only good part in Resident Evil 8 is the Duke. Three cheers for the Duke. And, like, just interacting with the Duke and cooking with the Duke and stuff like that. That's fun. Like, I throughout my games, I think every time I played, I was only able to find enough stuff to make one meal, even though there's like 12 of them or something. And I only ever made one like each run because I wasn't like searching around or stabbing pigs to death and chickens and stuff like that and fish. I wasn't doing that. Fishes. Damn, I've lost all my credibility. I said fishes. That's plural for fish. Oh no. And the other good part, I guess this isn't even a good part. The like, what are those called? The escape room. That's what they're called. The escape room in the mansion. Well, not the mansion, just the big house right after the castle with the place that's just like a horror game. The big baby place. That's pretty good. I thought that was pretty scary. I think out of I was probably under the influence while I played it of alcohol. I was probably pretty drunk when I was playing Resident Evil 7. I mean Resident Evil 8. And I think the baby was the most scared I had ever been in a horror game. It got me pretty freaking good. I liked it. I thought it was fun. And apparently there's like a shotgun you can get there that's really good, but I even went back after I did it and I couldn't find it. But whatever. I don't like... I like them as characters. I like the Duke as a character. I like the Merchant from Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake as a character. I don't like buying and selling shit in Resident Evil games to get better weapons. They do it in 5 too, but there's just a menu. You don't even get a character for it. I don't like that. I think like part of what makes Resident Evil so special to me is I mean, just go back to Resident Evil 1, right? The remake specifically, because the remake's the perfected version. It's way better than RE1 original, which I never finished, but I did have finished the remake at least 2 or 3 times, maybe 4. No, I'm on my 4th playthrough right now, and I haven't touched it in a few months. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The whole like, because Resident Evil is kind of a Metroidvania, right? Does that make sense? You know what a Metroidvania is? Okay, Metroidvania. So there was a game called Metroid. It came. The first one was on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and you would get power-ups. So like you'd go through an area, and there would be a blocked-off area that you couldn't go through, and then eventually you'd get a power-up that would let you go to that area. Like if it was like, I guess the most iconic is how in Metroid Samus is the main character. Samus can roll into a ball, and bam, she can go through tight spaces. Cool. More of the map is unlocked. The Vania comes from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is the same thing. You get power-ups and you go to different places. I never finished a single Metroid game. I have not played Symphony of the Night very much at all. I mean, I've tried a lot of Metroid games, but I never finished one. I guess, and I do like Metroidvanias a lot, like Resident Evil. I also like Shadow Complex on the Xbox 360. That game's a 7 out of 10. Like, in the great aspect of like what a game is, it's like a 7 out of 10. Like, it's fine. You don't have to play it. It's okay, but it is fine. 7 out of 10. I liked it a lot when I was, I don't know, 14, 12, 14, whenever I played it. They should make a remake to that game if they haven't. That game is actually pretty good. I would play it again. Um, so back to Resident Evil. The Resident Evil games are kind of like a Metroidvania, right? Where you're in this like big area, but it's not big enough to be open world. It's just a big area, and you'll like find a door, and the door's like, oh, you need the crown key to unlock it, and then you just do a ton of other stuff, and eventually get the crown key, and you can go back to like the first room in the game and unlock that door, and then something happens, and like every item is significant. You know, there's no like random drops from enemies, except for in some other Resident Evil games they do that, and I don't like it. Um, but that's like how Resident Evil should be. That's how like one is. That's how two is. One remake, two remake. I haven't played two original to completion either. I haven't played three original at all, but I did play the three remake. Let's just go through the Resident Evil games I've played. One remake, one original. Haven't. Let's go through the ones I've finished. Uh, One remake, two remake, three remake, four original, five, six. I haven't finished all of six. I did Leon's. Six is like a whole other video. I don't even want to talk about it right now. Six, I did half of the campaigns for it. No, I did Chris's too, so I didn't do Ada's, unless there's another one. Six, Revelations 1, Revelations 2, which are both severely underrated. 7, 8. I feel like I'm missing a couple. I feel like I played more than that. I know I haven't finished one remake, two remake. I haven't played three. I haven't played Code Veronica. I haven't finished Resident Evil Zero, which is like the hardest video game ever made. And I never played any of like the multiplayer. Well, I tried Outbreak. I rented it from a red box, not Outbreak, Umbrella Corps. I rented it from a red box. Or net, did I rent it from Netflix? No, I rented it from, what was that like video game website? Oh my god, I'm googling this. Rent a video game website. What are those called? Gamefly. I got it from Gamefly. My mom let me try Gamefly. I rented Umbrella Corps. I thought it was cool, but now I know it's bad. It's not good. But I played it. I played that one, but I don't think there's a story to that one, so whatever. I haven't played any of the light gun ones. You know, light gun is like the Nintendo Zapper. I haven't played any of those. Are they good? I don't know. So yeah, like Resident Evil 1 remake is maybe the greatest video game ever made. You could make a pretty solid argument about it. I can't really think of any flaws in it. All of it's really good. I'm very biased. Resident Evil 2 remake, everybody loved it, and I liked it a lot too. That came out 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe less, I don't know. Really good. From what I played compared to the original, I like the remake more. I think there's more interesting stuff going on in the remake. It just feels like a bigger game, especially with the 4 stories with Leon and Claire scenarios. There's like an A and a B scenario, so it's like 4 games in one. And then and Resident Evil 2 also had the Resident Evil 2 remake had the additional survivors, which was just like whole little storylines in their own, and those are awesome. Those are really good. And you've got all the unlocks and stuff, which is really fun too. Resident Evil 3 remake, I hated. Except, and this is hard. I'm wearing my Nemesis shirt right now. I love Nemesis. Hasn't played the 3 original. I love Nemesis. I love him. I've loved him ever since I played Marvel vs. Capcom. I've always thought he was cool. Uh, he's like a, I don't know what the kids call him, comfort characters. Um, he's awesome. He's just a big guy. He's a big monster man, and I'm wearing my T-shirt with him on it right now. And I think, this is what I think. In my opinion, the uh, the three remake design of Nemesis is better in some ways. I don't like that he's wearing trash bags. If he was wearing a trench coat, that would be really cool, like in the original. But I think how he is, his faces and his proportions, and because like original Nemesis, as classic as he looks a little dorky. He looks a little dweeby. RE3 Nemesis is terrifying. His piano teeth. He's a horrible monster, and I love him for it. He's the best, and I don't like his voice in 3. I like the original voice better, where it just sounds like a really raspy guy instead of like a horrible monster man. That's definitely scarier when you've got this horrible 8 feet tall, disgusting monster man, tentacles coming out of him, and a fucked up face, and he talks like your average guy, just like very raspy. Versus like you have a big fucked up monster man with a fucked up tentacle face who sounds like a monster man. I think if you the subtlety in making him a little more human with his voice makes him a little more intimidating. Uh, but it's all design choices. I don't care about Jill. She is not anywhere near my favorite of the Resident Evil protagonists. I like her in 1. I don't like her in 3 remake. She's a little too like badass. In 1, she's like kind of like derpy. She's a little goofy. Uh, I think it's very charming how she is in 1, especially with the bad voice acting. But in 3, she's too much of like a kick ass. You know, I think they should have kept, and that's why I don't like Leon in 4 very much either, because he's too like edgy. In two, Leon's like, oh, I want to be a cop. I want to save the day. I'm gonna save everyone. I'm a good noodle. And then in 4, he's like, he's mad because his mom wouldn't let him buy anything at Hot Topic or something. He's mad because his mom found his Rick and Morty bong or something. I don't know. Well, yeah, Resident Evil 4 isn't even that good. All right. Then there's a loud bang because I got shot in the head for sharing that opinion. But so 3 remake, the 3 remake, not very good. And then there's 4, and I did play the original of 4. I played all the way through, twice, and it's fine. That's where the part. This is where Resident Evil kind of fell off, is with 4, and people suck 4's dick so much, like all the time. They're just slobbering over 4. They are acting like it is sent from God. It's really not that great. It's way too like Americanized, right? Does that make sense? It's way too over the top. There's like, and I haven't played the 4 remake all the way, so I don't know. Maybe the 4 remake makes things better, but in the original 4, you've just got all this stuff going on, and the setting's not very interesting, and all the bosses are like giving one-liners, and it's like I don't know, it's like Zombieland. You guys remember Zombieland from like 2011 or something? Not great, but whatever. I don't know. And then 5 is like I uh I was hanging out with my buddy, and he just like he liked Resident Evil 2, but he likes it for different reasons. He likes the Mercenaries mode. I don't know anything about the Mercenaries mode. And that's it's like a side content where you just like try to fight as many enemies as possible within a time limit and try to get high combos, and it's like some epic gamer stuff. I never got into it, and apparently 5 is the best Mercenaries mode. But people, I remember people hating 5 so much. They hated it so much. It's not that bad. it's an action movie video game. It's I like 4, 5, and 6 are not Resident Evil games. They just have Resident Evil paint on them. Um, they just got the same actors for a different movie. Four is four kind of stays like it's like yeah, I'm almost Resident Evil. I'm almost not quite there, but I'm almost. And four is just so bombastic and full of just these big set pieces and these like big events that's all like so fast and so intense. Like for me, an encounter with an enemy in a Resident Evil game should be like one monster who takes like a pretty good beating to take him down, walking slowly towards you while you like are freaking out because you only have enough bullets or you only have enough healing items, and you're like oh my god, what am I gonna do? When Resident Evil 4 is like, if you shoot a crow in Resident Evil 4, you can get a flash grenade. You're like, what the hell? Um, and even in Resident Evil 4, there's like the spoiler alert. There's a boss fight where if you throw, and you can find a chicken who lays a golden egg. If you throw a golden egg at him, it takes out like 80% of his health bar or something. So like, if you're pandering to that like speedrunny like video game exploit crowd, you're not really making a Resident Evil game, is what I think. So like, I understand why people like 4 a lot. I just don't really like it that much personally because it's just so far removed from the. They were trying out things. The video games were different. It was a different era. Not everything. I don't have to like everything, and not everything has to cater to me. I get that, but RE4 just doesn't hit for me. I enjoyed it. I played it. I finished it. I don't think it's that great. It's not anywhere close to near my favorite. But whatever. So Resident Evil 5, back to that, is like co-op. You could have someone play with you, and it's way more action centered. There are like no puzzle. I can't remember a single. There's one puzzle. And that I can think of, and it's like the first boss fight where you have to trick this boss into walking into a furnace, and even then it's just like telling your co-op guy, hey, can you wait in this room, so he follows you, and then when you're done, can you step out because he's slow so we can turn the gas on and set him on fire. And if you know what to do, it takes like 30 seconds. It's not very fun. And I like puzzles. I like weird puzzles. RE4 has some really really good puzzles, and really good boss fights, so points to RE4. But RE5, like, people hated it, but it's fine. It's not it's like it's not your grandpa's Resident Evil, but sometimes grandpa likes better things than you. um, so Resident Evil 5, not great. Don't hate it, but don't really have any intent on playing it again. RE6 is what most people would say is the worst mainline Resident Evil game, and I can totally see why. But it's basically RE5 again, except it's a little scarier, which I do like. It's a little scarier, but it's still like super action packed. You've got like a weird heads up display that like shows your health and your bullets and all your guns, and there aren't any puzzles. There's like when I say puzzle, I mean something you need to like sit down and think. Like there's this amazing puzzle in Resident Evil 4. They're right next to each other. There's one outside this church where you need to figure out like how to make this geometry make a specific symbol, and it's actually pretty difficult if you don't like use a guide to do it quickly, and you're gonna need to really experiment with it. And that's a good puzzle, and you get like a I don't know, a MacGuffin for it. You get a special treat. I didn't say McMuffin, I said MacGuffin. Look it up. And right next to that is a church where you have to like mix colors, so it's kind of similar. And it's a good puzzle. It was a good puzzle from RE4. It's fine, It takes a little bit of thinking. RE5, no puzzles. RE6, no puzzles. Whatever. RE6 is really bad. I can't really think of anything memorable from it except for a few of the boss fights, and some of the enemy design in Resident Evil 6 is actually really good. Same for 5. Like Resident Evil, if you're playing Resident Evil, there's going to be good enemy design. That's just like to be expected. Um, Resident Evil 6 has like Lipotisa, which are these big, fat zombies that are covered in like boils. They're really interesting. I love how they look, but you only fight like 2 of them in the Leon's campaign, maybe 3, but they're fun. They're like a fun, quick little boss fight. Um, they're like designed to spread whatever the disease in Resident Evil 6 is, whatever virus it is this time. I don't know. Uh, you've got Ustanok in so what? I'm not. I don't want to get into. There's this guy named Albert Wesker. He's a bad guy. He's the bad guy of the series. He dies in 5, but in 6 you play as like his son, or he has a son. I think it's his son. I can't. Yeah, it's his son or something. They're related somehow. Maybe it's like a clone of him or something. It's stupid. And I played that campaign with my buddy Chandler all the way through. It took like 2 hours, between 2 to 4 hours, and it's not good. But there's a big monster man named Ustanok who's kind of like bad Nemesis. He's a Nemesis and Ustanok are both tyrants. Tyrants are like the perfect life form or something. I don't know. Who cares? But Ustanok he's got like a robot arm where he can like change out what's on it, so it can be a grappling hook, like a chainsaw, or like a grabber. It's cool. A lot of the campaign is just like stealthing around him because you can't kill him, and eventually you do kill him. And it's like, wow, we got him. And you're with Sherry Birkin, who's all grown up. She was like this little girl Leon and Claire saved in Resident Evil 2, and now she's like an adult who, for some reason, wants to go fight these horrible monsters that traumatized her. But whatever. Um, Revelations 1 is awesome, and so is 2. I really like both of those games. They I don't really know how to describe them differently. They're kind of like a mix between Resident Evil 5 and the original Resident Evil, where there's like backtracking, but there's like weird combat stuff. It's very like shooty focused, but it's also a little clever, and it's got some really good scares, and um, probably some of my favorite enemy design and just character design in the entire series. One Revelations 1 takes place on a giant cruise ship, which is like a great setting, and it's awesome, and it's a lot of fun to be on. I think most people agree that the last boss to Revelations 1 is the hardest in the series. Uh, I didn't have that much trouble with him though, because I got that gamer sense, but whatever. Um, Revelations 1 is just super cool. The setting's great. It's very eerie. It's also, I think it's also co-op, or you just have an AI like helper. I think it might also be co-op. I know 2 is co-op. I don't know if 1 is, but I feel like if 2 is co-op, 1 also has to be. And there's like some great boss fights. It's like nautical themes, so you're fighting like weird fish dudes. It's kind of Cthulhu-y, kind of HP Lovecrafty. But not racist. That's Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 is a racist one. But it's like a really fun setting, and it's not very long, and they're always like on sale. So I think if you could buy them for like $7. Uh, it's just good stuff. Two is weird. Like speaking of HP Lovecraft, 2 is really HP Lovecrafty. 1 is scary, but 2 is terrifying. It's one of the scariest in the series. There's just some horrible monsters in that game, and some of the boss fights are just so freaky, and just some of the monsters are so freaky. So you play as like, I think you're like, are you Claire? Let me Google this. I'm gonna have to Google. Yeah, you play as Claire, and you're being followed around by uh, Moira Burton. Yeah, that's Moira Burton. And Moira is the daughter of Barry Burton, who shows up in the first Resident Evil, and he is the best. And you play as Barry Burton in two, so it's like two different stories. So you're on this island, and it's been taken over by like Albert Wesker's sister or something. Uh, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying not to Google his. It's just like put Spencer in the background video. So you're you're playing as Claire Redfield again from two. I think that was like the last time she showed up. Then the second time she they don't really use her character a lot. Uh, so you're playing as Claire, who's being followed by Moira Burton. Claire is like a stone cold badass. Claire's a girl boss. All right, we like Claire. Moira is one of Barry Burton's kids, and for some reason you're both on this weird evil island that Albert Wesker's sister like took and has been like experimenting on people with, and like she's doing bad stuff, and the place has gone to hell. And Moira, the co-op character, doesn't has like this backstory about like how she accidentally like shot her sister in the leg or something when she was playing with her dad's guns or something, and now she's like afraid of guns, so she can only like beat people up with a crowbar, and that's pretty good. Like it's good character design or gameplay design, and like a fine character story to be like, oh, I don't like it makes sense, whatever, that she doesn't want to hold a gun, but so when she's following you around, she like helps you do puzzles, and there are some good puzzles in this. She helps you do puzzles. There's some good puzzles in this. I lost my train of thought. And she carries a crowbar, so she can like break open crates and stuff like that. And if like you get cornered by a monster, she can like beat the crap out of it with a crowbar. And the thing about Revelations 2 is that the characters aren't idiots. And your helpers are not idiots, and they can actually take decent care of themselves, which is pretty nice. So you can go do something else, and they stay back, and they won't die immediately. Unlike Resident Evil 4, they had no idea what they were doing with adding a secondary character. But whatever. I didn't even talk about that. It would be like a 6-hour video if I talked about the story of Resident Evil. And when you're playing as Barry, who's like, he survived the Spencer Mansion incident. He's a stone cold badass. He's always been a cool dude, and he's a good dad. And you're with this little girl whose name I can't remember, and she can't do anything. She's useless. But well, she's not useless. She can do one thing, and she has like special sight or something because she was experimented on, or I don't know. And she can see invisible monsters, or like knows where monsters are. So she'll be like, "There's a guy over there," and Barry can just like smack him up, and it's pretty cool. She can't like fight or anything though. She's like 6. And when I was playing Revelations 2, there's like this puzzle with these crane gurneys or something that you have to cross, these catwalks, and you have to like time them correctly. And I accidentally had her fall off like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, oh my god, I'm murdering this poor little girl over and over. But I really like 1 and 2. 2 has like weird biblical and philosophy themes to it. It's not the best writing, but it makes a pretty good setting on the island. But the cruise ship is way cooler. 2 is better, like just overall, but the setting in 1 is better. But that's just my opinion, as this whole video is. Next to that, Resident Evil 7, which is basically the perfect Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 7 was like so messed up for the Japanese audience that there are like videos online where you can watch videos of like Japanese people playing Resident Evil 7 and they like pass out from how scared they are. It's awesome. It's what got me into horror games. And I don't want to go into the story, but it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's It's, Western country horror mixed with like true body horror. It's like if Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Thing, and The Crazies all had a baby, and it's amazing. It's a great game. The first two thirds, like I said at the beginning, the first two thirds are basically perfect. The last third falls off so hard, with maybe the worst final boss in the entire series. They do this a lot, where it's just like a big monster coming out of a wall, slowly coming closer to you. Sometimes they're better about it, sometimes they're not better about it. Resident Evil 7, they're not better about it. Uh, I love Resident Evil 7. It's a really good game. You should. It's there's a review for Spirited Away by this guy who says like when you first hear about Spirited Away, the first thing you should the movie Spirited Away, the Studio Ghibli movie, the first thing you should do after hearing about Spirited Away is watch it, because you could die at any moment. Like, life is so fleeting that if you live a life without seeing Spirited Away, you will have a less lived life. A life less lived. It's like a serious review that this guy said. And that's like true for Resident Evil 7. That's how I feel about it too. Like, if you like horror games and you have like $20, go play Resident Evil 7. You will not regret it. It's the Resident Evil game I got the closest to 100%ing. There are just some trophies that are a bit too much for me to want to undertake. And I lost the account that had all the trophies on it, so like I have to start over on on my Xbox, start over again, whatever. But it's awesome. Resident Evil 8 is like Resident Evil 7 and 8 take place in first person, which is different because every single other Resident Evil game except for the light gun ones take place in third person. Being in first person in a Resident Evil game is really scary. I'll leave it at that. Just go play Resident Evil 7, please God, and come back and tell me what you think. Anyways, Resident Evil 8 sucks. We already talked about this. And then Resident Evil 4 Remake, I haven't finished. It seems to improve on a lot of things so far, but I don't know. For someone who's kind of biased against Resident Evil 4, I feel like I might just not enjoy it the most. I don't know what else to say. You guys let me talk for like 40 minutes straight. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sorry there hasn't been a new video in a while. When there is, you'll know. So, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Or whatever. I don't know. I'm very tired. So thank you for watching, and remember, cowboys help cowboys.